Hi, second grade. I totally forgot to put your science and social studies papers in your packets. So I'm going to go over them with you right here so that you and I can talk about it. And then I can give you some assignments via email, or if you guys are just interested, if you're not a part of my class, but you are here watching, I hope that this is something that's interesting to you and that you will learn from it. We're talking about forces in science for second grade. So the forces that we're talking about are things that you would move and how things move. So all of this handout says forces are all around us. They're everywhere. Without forces, you couldn't move your things. You couldn't move your bike. You couldn't move the car. You couldn't move your hands. Forces are being used all the time. There's the pushing force, and then there's the pulling force. Wind is always a pushing force, so it's pushing like a windmill or any of those things. A sailboat would be pushed through the water. And a kite, when you were flying a kite, the wind would push a kite. It can also, if you have a strong enough wind, some of my friends in Tennessee know, strong enough wind, it could push your house over. So there are all kinds of different pushing and pulling forces. If you have an idea what kind of pulling or pushing force you might think of, put it in the comments down below. I'm so excited about this YouTube stuff. All right, so let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about these forces, these pushing forces. I have this one right here. When you are riding your bike or kicking a ball, you're using force. You're using energy to get that going. When you're playing a violin, the vibration is making a sound. Magnets that attract different kinds of metal are using the forces around them. And it's not the Star Wars force, but that's kind of cool, isn't it? And you have different kinds of things that are opening and closing, like your doors, your refrigerator. You can move something without touching it if you're using a magnet, like maybe put a paper clip on some glass and you can use the magnet. That would be really fun to do. So when we come back to school, let's do that. That would be really fun. Friction. Everybody should say that word friction. I'm going to give you a second. Friction. Friction is a force that you're using. What it does is the air around you is getting pushed, and it's pushing against the ground, and it's causing friction. Friction causes heat. So that's why when you're riding your bike, your wheels start to feel warm because the friction is helping you move forward. If you rub your hands together, you feel how warm it is. That's called friction, and that's a force. Gravity is another force. The gravity on Earth, holding us to the Earth, is a force. It's also the gravity is pulling with the moon, and the moon's gravity pulls our oceans. So that's pretty cool. There is another word I want you to hear: mass. Everybody say that word, mass. Mass is the amount of matter, the amount of something in an object. So the mass of this marker is different than the mass of this pair of scissors, but you can measure those to see how much they weigh, how much gravity is pulling them down. My mass is going to be different than someone else's mass. My drink is going to be heavier or lighter compared to other things. That's the mass, how much something is getting pulled down onto the earth. If you go down the slide, the friction of going down the slide, who's ever gone down the slide and gotten like static in their hair, like sort of sticking up? That is some electricity that's being formed because of the friction, because of the heat. So that is what we're talking about in science. Second grade, I'll also send you some fun YouTube videos with, I think there's ones with Moby from Brain Pop, which would be fun. So that is what we will be covering this week in science if I had remembered to put this in your packet. See you soon.